Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. I want to greet and thank our General Overseer and the leadership of the church for the opportunity to share thoughts with us this morning. And I want to thank my audience. I thank you for coming and thank you for your patience. This morning, by the grace of God, I'll be sharing thoughts with us on the topic, developing time management skills. Developing time management skills. My objective this morning is to help refresh our appreciation of time as a key inelastic resource given to us by God as individuals, and our responsibility to efficiently manage it and maximize its use. Now, my ambition this morning is that everyone here today would leave with at least one takeaway. If you believe that, shout a big amen. Now, by the grace of God, I will be running through a number of issues in the course of my very brief time with you this morning. A lot will depend on you. I want you to begin to ask that the Lord will help you to get whatever the Lord wants you to take away this morning. You may end up taking away something that will be life-transforming for you. And that's my prayer, that's my ambition. It may sound over-ambitious, but please permit me on this occasion to be over-ambitious. And I pray that the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. Let us pray. Father, Lord, I just pray that you would help us this morning. I pray for your anointing, and I pray, Lord, that, Father, you would minister to us all today. I pray for everyone under the sound of my voice. I pray, Lord, that you prepare hearts and minds and help us, Lord, to be able to extract value from the things and thoughts we'll be sharing together today in Jesus' name. Now, time is something that we're all very conversant with. And I'm going to spend very little time trying to define what time is. But it's important for me to be able to build the right foundation so that we can then progress. I will spend more time when I begin to talk on some of the skills that we need for efficient time management. But I like the definition of time from Wikipedia. And it says that time, it defines time as the continued sequence of existence and events that occur in an apparently irreversible succession from the past through the present into the future. But for our purpose this morning, I would just simply want to remind us that time is God-given. Psalm 139 verse 16 tells us, it says, your eyes saw my unformed substance, and in your book all the days of my life were written, before ever they took shape, when as yet there was none of them. And that's the Amplified Version. So that is it. Time is God-given. And it's important to always remember this, that the time that we have is God-given. Let me quickly run through just a few characteristics of time. One, time is inelastic. Time is inelastic, so you can't stretch it. You can't stretch it. It's inelastic. And again, the quantity that you and I have is unknown. You don't know how long you're going to be on this side of eternity. So that's why we need to handle time with a lot of care. We need to handle it with a lot of care. Psalm 39 verses 4 and 5 says, Lord, make me to know my end and the measure of my days, what it is, that I may know how frail I am. Behold, thou hast made my days as an handcraft, and my age is as nothing before thee. Verify every man at its best state is altogether vanity. That's from the King James Version. And time is irreversible. Time is irreversible. Once a particular time has passed, you cannot recall it. Once a particular time has passed, you can't recall it. You can't bring it back into being. It's gone, and it's gone for eternity. It's gone. It's gone. You can't call it back. Time is irrevocable. It's irrevocable, so you can't cancel it. You can't cancel time. And the quantum is unchangeable. You can't revoke it. And then time is measured. Time is measured in intervals that we now know as maybe seconds, minutes, etc. Time is constant. It's constant for you here in Ajebo. It's constant for the man in Lagos. It's constant for the man in Washington. It's constant for the man in Beijing in China. And time is monodirectional. It just goes, it keeps going forward. It doesn't go backwards at all. And then there is an urgency around time. And that's why in Job chapter 7 verse 6, we see it says, and my days are running out quicker than the thread of a fast-moving needle. Than the thread of a fast-moving needle. Now, when you think of the characteristics of time, it becomes even more pressing for us to be a lot more deliberate in managing our time. And that's why we talk about time management. We talk about time management. And because time is inelastic, it's a key resource that is inelastic, it becomes necessary for us to deploy appropriate skills in the efficient use of our time. Because time is inelastic and you have a limited amount of time, it's important that you have control of that time. It's also important that you are deliberate in planning, in organizing, and directing the use of your time. So you need to deploy the appropriate skills. You need to have control of your time. You need to be deliberate in planning, organizing, and directing. If you forget, just remember DCD. Deploying, control, and deliberate. So you deploy appropriate skills, control your time, and be deliberate in planning. This accounts for the introduction of management into our use of time. And that's why we talk about time management. I have to move very fast. I have to move very fast with this. Sorry. I have a fairly more detailed outline in the booklet, so you can cross-check that later. So, and that's why we have introduced management into our use of time. And over time, as you look at the different revolutions that the world has gone through, you would see that every revolution and every era of development or wave of development, efforts have been made to help man control and manage his time better. You have the Greek Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, and today we are in the information age. And so much has been done now to help us manage our time more efficiently. Technology has been introduced into the management of our time. You have applications that help us manage our time better. Whereas under the Industrial Revolution, we had things like calendars, we had diaries, we had planners, etc. Today, technology has been introduced into time management to help us to manage our time more efficiently. Now, some people argue, particularly if you look at, if you read Stephen Covey, he says, perhaps there is a fourth dimension to this. And the argument is, it goes way beyond just time management. Essentially about personal management. And time management is probably embedded in our personal management. So if you focus more on personal management, ultimately you'll be able to achieve a more efficient management of your time. That's the argument. And then Stephen Covey goes on to look at what are the key factors that and the use of our time that impact the activities that we get into in the use of our time. And the two factors that he addressed are the urgent and the important. That all the activities that we embark on in the use of our time are influenced by whether they are urgent or important. And I find this very instructive. How do we differentiate between what is important and what is urgent? How do we appropriate our time? How do you apply your time? And how do you use time on the basis of what is important or what is urgent? What is urgent? Something may be urgent, but may not be important. So how do you deal with it? And how do you ensure that you pay attention to the things that are also important, and you don't just keep running after those things that you think or perceive to be urgent? Some things that are urgent may not necessarily be important, because sometimes some things that are urgent tend to call for our immediate attention. They require immediate attention. They want it now. A classical example is when you have the mobile phone. Now, the moment your phone begins to ring, what happens? It calls for immediate attention. It wants you to immediately attend to it. It begins to tell you that, look, I am urgent, I am urgent. Now, you may take that call. You may be in the middle of something that you believe is very important and key to you. But because that call has come in, many people cannot stand a ringing phone unattended to. So the tendency is for you to do what? It's to pick the call. And the person on the other side says, oh, I'm just calling to greet you. How are you? You say, I'm fine. Where are you now? And then he can go on. He can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your time. And then it takes you time to get back. What has happened? That call, because the phone rang, it tells you that, oh, this is urgent. But in actual fact, is it urgent? No, it's not. But unfortunately, it has reordered your priorities. It has interrupted what you are doing. It tells you that it is urgent, but it's not important. So there are many things that may come across to us as urgent, but they are not necessarily important. And because some things are very important, but they don't hit us in the face, we tend to neglect them. And that's why we need to create a balance. It's important to recognize this as you seek to manage your time better, so that we're not, we don't come under the oppression of the tyranny of the urgent, and you neglect those things that are important. The things that are important, are matters that have to do with results. They are matters, important matters that contribute to your mission, to your values, to your high priority goals. The important matters, and allow the urgent and mostly unimportant to divert our attention and erode our time and take priority over the important. And that's why we need to balance this. Not only for efficient time management, but perhaps even for our personal management. For our personal management. So when you look at these factors, it becomes necessary to balance. I have a matrix, and I hope they're able to show it on the screen. you have a matrix, and on one side we have important and the unimportant. And then the other axis is the urgent and not urgent. And then you see the interception. And then you see the box. The first box there is where the urgent intercepts with the important. And we can call that maybe box 1, or designate it important and urgent. Now that's a key box to pay attention to. And then you have the second box to my right and perhaps to your left, or box 2, and that is the important and not urgent. And then below you have 2 other boxes again, not important and urgent. And then the fourth box is not important and not urgent. So you now begin to look at it and say, okay, so what are the activities that can fall into these boxes? It's important for you to work on this classification as you seek to more efficiently manage your time. When you look at box 1, the things that are both important and urgent, you have activities like crisis. When you have a crisis in your hand, you will know that, yes, this is both important and it's also urgent. When you have a pressing problem, you will know that, yes, this is both important and it's urgent. When you have a deadline-driven project, a time-sensitive project, that will also fall into that box. And then you move to the next box, the box of important and not urgent. Now, there are many things that are so important, but they may not appear too pressing, but they are so important you need to pay attention to them. But because they are not urgent, they are not pressing, the tendency is we may look away. But they are important for our personal management. They are important for how well we do and turn out. And they are key. And we need to be very deliberate. You know, some of them may be preventive. They may be relation building, both with God and man. They may have to do with recognizing new opportunities. But they also have to do with planning your personal mission statement, the mission statement of your organization, the mission of your church or ministry that you lead. These are key. It could be recreational. It may have to do with your health and physical. But you see, they don't come in like the phone. So the tendency is you may look away. And that's why we need to be very deliberate when it comes to matters that are important, so that we can make our time and attend to them. And that's why we're encouraged to set goals, so that when you set goals in different areas of life, you can deal with them. If you have a personal mission statement, then you are able to identify key elements in your personal mission statement and know that these things are important and you'll be able to address. For instance, my personal life mission statement is to excel in my spiritual, family, ministry, and career lives, and to motivate others to excel in these areas of their lives, to be a good steward at all times and in respect of all things entrusted to me. This is my personal life mission statement. So everything I do, I measure it against my personal life mission statement. Now, if it's key to my personal life mission statement, it becomes important to me. It's important for me to come and share with you this morning because it's an opportunity to motivate you. It's an opportunity to motivate you so that you can excel in one area of your life or the other. So it becomes important for me. So if I'm to position this in my metrics, I'll put it in one of the boxes under important. So that helps us. It helps us to be able to set goals, and set goals in all the critical areas of our lives. You know, spiritual ministry, family, intellectual, finance and career, health and physical, social and cultural, etc. Otherwise, we may not just get to it, and we're carried away by the urgent and the things that are not very important. And then the things that are not important and urgent, some of those activities will be interruptions, some calls, phone calls, some reports, some meetings. Some meetings too are not important, but you know, they may come as urgent, but the reality is that they're not important. Some meetings you go to, at the end of the meeting, sit back and ask yourself, what have you gained? What value have you extracted from the meeting? Nothing. And then the not important and not urgent will be trivials. You have a lot of trivial matters around. Suppose he wants you to be able to achieve his own purpose. So it's important that we know that time is God-given. It's important for us to know that time is our life. Our life here on this side of eternity is denominated in time. And then the quantum of time assigned to each of us is unknown to us. You don't know how long you're going to be here. And that's why you need to make the most of whatever time you have. Every minute of your time is important. And please, don't waste other people's time too, because they also have responsibilities for accounting for their time. So it's important. You don't know how much time you have here. I remember the legend, the story about the merchant who went to Baghdad then with his servant. He went on a trading expedition, and when they got to Baghdad, the servant then walked up to him and said, he wants to quickly get to downtown Baghdad. So the master said, yes, by all means, please go. So he went off to downtown Baghdad. Not too long, the servant ran back to his master. And the master said, oh, you are back so soon? He said, yes. He said, look, when I got to downtown Baghdad, I saw the spirit of death. And the way the spirit of death looked at me, I'm worried, because he looked at me with a kind of surprise on his face. And I'm worried. I need to quickly get out of Baghdad. I need to get to Samara. So the master said, okay, by all means, go to Samara. If that keeps you away from the spirit of death, please go. So he hurriedly left Baghdad and headed for Samara. So later that day, the master himself went to downtown Baghdad. When he got to downtown Baghdad, he ran into the spirit of death again. And then said to the spirit of death, he said, look, spirit of death, why did you look at my servant the way you did this morning? You got him scared? The spirit of death said, yes, I was surprised to see him in Baghdad, because I have an appointment this evening with him at Samara. Brethren, every ticking second is a reminder that our lifetime here on earth is ticking away. And I pray that the Lord will help us manage our time better in Jesus' name. We also, one key thing we also need to recognize is we are accountable for our time. Because time is God-given, is a trust that the Lord has given to us. And the Lord expects us to be good stewards of our time. So we are accountable. 1 Corinthians 4:2 reminds us, it says, now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. We must be faithful with our time, because we're going to account for our time. It is a trust. It's very important. And particularly again for pastors, you have responsibility not just for your time, but for the time of others. So when you assemble people or you have to engage them, you need to be careful, because you are going to account for people's time. So if you waste people's time or you don't help them to use their time properly, you are also accountable. So we don't go for programs that we have not planned. The entire essence of this, and the General Overseer keeps talking about this, we need to prepare. You don't bring in people for a program, they're going to sit down there for 1 hour, 2 hours, and you haven't prepared in advance what the program is all going to be about, to ensure that people get value out of that program. And then you just come and you start thinking that you think on your feet, and then you begin to spiritualize it and say, Holy Spirit will take control. And then you keep people endlessly. We have a responsibility. We shall account for people's time. You can imagine if you've gathered 100 people, or you keep them waiting, you come in late, you keep them waiting for 30 minutes, 100 people. That is 50 man-hour gone. It's irrecoverable. And you will account for it. So we need to be very responsible, because we're accountable. There is competition for our time. And this is very important. there is competition for your time. As individuals, we have responsibility for our time. You must assume control and management of your time. You need to use it to achieve goals set under God. If you don't, others and the devil will take over control of your time to fulfill their own goals. So you better take control of yours so that you fulfill the goal that the Lord has set for you. Amen? So let me quickly run through some tips for time management. The very first one is plan the use of your time. This is very important. When you have a key resource, you need to plan. If you have some money now, you do budget. If you have some money, you prepare budget. So you need to plan your time. You need to write out your schedule. Every day, do it. Pray for guidance. Ask that the Lord will help you. And He sure will. And haven't done that, you need to stay organized. You need to stay focused. You know, I like when God gives instructions, He gives very clear and detailed instruction. Look at the way He engaged with Moses in Exodus 40, setting up the tabernacle. It was very detailed. And Moses stayed focused. He did everything to the letter. So we need to plan, we need to stay organized, and the Lord will help us. We need to assume responsibility for our time under God. We've talked about this. If we don't, others will. Ephesians 6 verses 16 and 17 says, make the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And then review how you use your time. If you can, at the end of every day, sit back and review. How have I used my time? How have you used your time? It is most helpful at the end of each day to review your use of your time. Document your use of your time over a period so that you can assess and see how well you're doing. And then our attention span. This is very helpful. You know, attention span. We need to be deliberate in sustaining focus and ensuring that you maximize your attention span on current tasks and assignments. I've just discovered that as I'm growing older, it's taking me more effort. You know, I need to focus more and ensure that my attention span goes on much longer so that I can focus on the task that is before me. This is important. And I try to be very deliberate. Otherwise, your mind will just begin to wander. You know, your mind will begin to wander. Adults, for instance, were told that the maximum you can focus is about 18 minutes. After that, your mind will travel a bit and then will come back. You know, some of you, the team will travel to the market and come. If you are in church, sometimes even if you are praying, don't pretend. You know, your mind will go. So you need to be very deliberate to make sure you concentrate. You concentrate. The same thing applies to tasks. Otherwise, you do so many things, you leave them half done. You go to people, you see half tasks, uncompleted tasks, half done, different things. Books, half read. They'll read one chapter, they'll keep it, open another one, read one chapter. You know, they have so many unresolved or half-resolved issues. Disputes, they will not resolve them fully. So we need to focus. We need to ensure that our attention span is so that we can see things through. We need to complete tasks. We need to close out on assignments. We need to close out every chapter well so that we can focus on finishing well. Then discipline. Time management requires discipline. It's one good skill that we need. Self-discipline helps us to stay on course and focus attention on current tasks. Self-discipline also helps to ensure task completion and keep backlog management to the barest minimum. Backlog management. If you are not disciplined and focused, your backlog management becomes very daunting. And I'll come to that shortly. So self-discipline enhances the ability to finish every task well and close critical chapters fully and close them very well. Time accountability check. This is also something that we can Practice time accountability check. You can engage a friend or an associate to be your time accountability check. So at the end of a day or week, you can sit down with your accountability check and run over how you have used your time. How you have used your time, and you give the liberty to your accountability check to either raise queries, ask questions, and help you to review how well you are using your time. It's just like how you do your budget for the use of money. And at the end of a period, you do your budget checks to see are there variances, how much have you been able to implement or comply with your budget. So the time accountability check helps you a great deal. And then you have what we call backlog management. Backlog management. It's important to develop the list of uncompleted tasks and review them from time to time. If you don't do this, try it. Go back and look at what are those things that I'm supposed to do that I have not done, or those things that I have done halfway and have not completed. Make a list of them. We call them backlog management. It's important that you do it so that you check them, and then it will help you to close out on some key tasks or key chapters. Focus on completing the important matters and tasks on your backlog list. Commitment management. This is also very important and helpful. This is to manage the commitment that you take on. You can decide to use value and impact to measure or assess the commitment that you take. And this is very relevant in business and also in leadership. So for leaders in ministry and church environment, it helps to first pray and seek God's guidance before taking on commitment. Many of us are quick to accept commitment. Very quick. Before they finish telling them, they have said yes. And then they will not do it. So the ones you take on, try to assess what is the impact of this commitment that I'm taking on. This proposal that has come from the head of Ministry of Missions and Evangelism, what is the impact? This program that has come from the music ministry, what is the impact? We're going to commit resources. We're going to bring in people. What's going to be the impact? So we need to watch for impact before we make commitments. And then the next skill is the power to say no. I had to adopt this. When I was doing my MBA, I read a case written by the Harvard Business School. And it has to do with taking on business. And the title of that article is The Power to Say No. That when you run a business, there are times that you have to say no to some businesses. And in managing your time, you need to have the power to say no. You know, some of us have a problem with saying no. So we always want to say yes. They will say yes, they know that they're not even going to do it. But you see, we need to have the power to say no. You don't have to say yes when you know you shouldn't be taking on that additional obligation or appointment. You don't need to say yes to it. Please say no. Learn to politely say no in such situation. Some people can't say no. But if you must manage your time well, there are some things that you must say no to. It's important. So you just have to learn, and you must have that power and retain the power to say no. But say it nicely, say it politely. It helps. It helps. Otherwise, sometimes you say yes and you're not able to deliver, or you put yourself under unnecessary pressure, or it will just create a crisis for you in your time management. But we need to deliver no nicely. Have good reasons, particularly when you are dealing with your leaders, or you are in the office where your time is paid for. You need to justify when you say no. And sometimes you must be ready for a dialogue. If your boss calls you and you say no, okay, you need to explain. But again, another thing I want to point out is we also need to learn to accept or accommodate no. You know, as people retain the power to say no when we ask them for something, we too must be ready to accept or accommodate no. Many leaders cannot take no. Once they call you to do something, if you say no, you are in their black book. But so, as leaders, we also need to learn to accept no. We need to learn to accommodate it. We need to just adjust to it, to know that there are times that people may not just be able to say yes to what we want them to do. And sometimes they have very convincing reason. But some leaders may not even want to listen. They may not even give you the opportunity, and they get upset. We shouldn't get, our pastors, we shouldn't get upset. As long as we know that people are not just being frivolous or just refusing to take responsibility, because we assume too that people will be responsible. I remember a leader that I worked with for so many years. He used to be the president of our Daily Bread out there in the headquarters, Rick DeHaan. And I worked with him over a 10-year period, and we worked very closely. And he would send a message to me wanting me to do something. And he would say, at the end of it, he would say, "Oh, Peter, you don't have to say yes if you know you can't make time for this." He made it easy for me to say no if I needed to say no. Of course, I was very responsible. I won't say no if I didn't have to. But he has even prepared himself too to take a no from me. And that helps. I since learned that from him, and that has been very helpful. Set expectations. So when you have deliverables, set times for delivery. That helps you and motivates you to meet up. Use meetings effectively. This is very important for us to use meetings effectively. And some of the questions you want to ask yourself is, do you have to attend all meetings? Do you have to attend all the meetings? Do you have to be there all the time? Or you want to be there to make your own contribution or listen or take the relevant information that you need to take? And then now you can also look at how can you leverage technology to help you or reduce the time and frequency of some of your regular meetings, and that will help. And then another key tip is don't let technology control you. We have all kinds of technology around us that if we are not careful, technology can take control of us. So we should take control of the technology. Your mobile phone, take control of it. You can put it on silent sometimes so that it will not ring and disturb you when you are busy. And then you can actually go back and return calls, And if you must call somebody sometimes, you can send a text to him to say, "Look, what time is convenient for me to have a chat with you?" And you can agree an appointment, because sometimes these things can come, and so we need to manage technology. And don't allow phone calls to reorder your priorities for you. And then we need to manage interruptions. We need to manage interruptions. Research has shown that it takes an average of 8 minutes to recover from being interrupted when you are in the middle of a task. And I think this is very conservative, 8 minutes. In our own environment, when they interrupt you, the interruption itself may take 30 minutes. Then when you come back to remember where you were. So we need to manage interruptions, because when they do come, they can really set us back. The suggestion is that we should be ruthless with time, but gracious with people when handling interruptions, and try to keep interruptions to a minimum, because the more of them you get, you just end up with uncompleted tasks, and so we need to manage interruptions. We need to avoid procrastination. So whatever you have dedicated time for now, try as much as possible to do them. So you don't postpone it and say, "Okay, I'll come back to it later." And that later never comes. So you end up building up a backlog that you now need to go back to and manage. So we need to resist the temptation of postponing doing them. for no justifiable reason. And then the next tip is, must it be me? Can you delegate this? Can someone else do it for you? It helps if you allow others do some of these things. Some people want to do everything themselves. They want to do everything. They have people around them, but they will not delegate. When you delegate, it also helps to develop others. You create opportunities for others. And then you can focus on doing those things that no one else can help you do. No one else can help you do. And then as I close, let me quickly run through what are the things you need to watch out for as you seek to more efficiently manage your time. What are the things to watch out for? One is avoid waste of time and avoid time wasters. You know time wasters? You know those things that waste your time. You know, waste of time is sin because you are wasting something that God has given to you and has entrusted to you. Time spent on anything that does not contribute to the fulfillment of God's plan and purpose for us. Overwork without making time to rest is something we need to watch out for, particularly with leaders and pastors. We need to rest. Don't overwork. Overworking without making out time to rest is poor time management because you pay for it. You pay for it. And it's also disobedience to God's command that we must take rest. That we must take rest. And it can lead to burnout. Burnout is a bad thing. You know, when you are burnt out, you even need more time to recover. So you end up losing more time. It's a whole topic on its own. People have written books. So we need to rest. And the Bible tells us that in several passages of Scripture. You know, even God rested. We see that in the account of creation. And another thing we need to watch out for is the need for us to eliminate the unimportant. Check your to-do list. Check your backlog list and see those things that are not important. Just eliminate them. So constantly check your schedule. The things that are not important, just take them off. And in conclusion, leaders have urgent and compelling need to manage their time as efficiently as possible. They have a responsibility for ensuring that they use their time to achieve set goals under God's leading and direction. Consequently, leaders who seek to be effective and are goal-driven must work on developing their time management skills and deploying them appropriately. Thank you, and God bless you. I finished 10 minutes before my time, so if there are questions, I will take.